Of course, this trend is then complicated by two things that are ever present with us today. One is the massive expansion of celebrity culture. So there now seems to be virtually nothing that we can't or don't know about public figures and their private lives. I need only mention Paris Hilton and Britney Spears, since we not only know about their private lives, but we can actually see images of their private parts online. Second is the dramatization of the inside story as seen on, for example, the TV series The West Wing, which purported to show how the corridors of power actually operate, with personal lives intersecting with professional lives and rivalries, and matters of public policy mixed with pragmatic politics. I can't elaborate here on this show or on what I thought was its pale derivative, Commander-in-Chief, which only lasted one season. But I would argue that this weekly primetime view of inside the White House was not only liberal in intent and effect, the president was a political liberal, but also helped to create the public's imagination of how the personal and political intersect and interact. In other words, we actually had weekly the chance to see how these public figures hold on to and manage and work with their personal lives. There's an undeniable pleasure in thinking that we know the inside story, the hidden truth, the real version of what's going on. And that's part of our current political environment. We saw in the just concluded political campaign season how this plays out, and significantly how it's been changed by gender politics. The candidacy of Hillary Clinton in particular raised these issues in multiple ways. By her own history and the past rumors and charges that she was involved in shady financial deals before her husband's election. By further charges that she was involved in misappropriation of funds, that Travelgate escapade, and possibly to the deep conspiratorial tendencies, possibly the death of a White House aide. Also then, her relationship with her philandering husband, and so on. Had she been nominated by the Democrats, doubtless these matters would have been brought up again. And in addition, we might have seen the tabloid rumors revived that were common 5 years ago or so, that she was a lesbian because she spent private social time with women. What we've consistently seen is the obnoxious attacks on her by elements of the public at campaign appearances, such as the "Iron My Shirts" cries, or Rush Limbaugh's ridiculing of her pantsuits, pointing out that she didn't have the attractive legs of Sarah Palin, and so forth. We shouldn't forget this gender-charged conflict. So let me remind you that Barack Obama, and I think to a lesser degree, but significantly, John McCain showed significant restraint in holding back those of their supporters who wanted to attack the opponent through discussing their family or personal life. Not that this material didn't come out, it did, especially on blogs, but because it appeared on various blogs and in the tabloids, it was there, but it was clearly muffled over by the official campaigns. For Obama, that is the representation of Obama, I think this was in large part because there was apparently no personal or private scandal to reveal. You know, the biggest thing was the Reverend Wright thing, or his association with Bill Ayers, who I heard Sean Hannity the other day on the radio right after the election talking about the decades of close relationship that the two of them had, as if they were, you know, hanging out in each other's kitchens every afternoon or something like that. I think for the representation of McCain, it seems like the Democrats, at least again on the official level, chose not to make an issue of his treatment of his first wife when he dumped her for Cindy McCain as a trophy wife. But the initial announcement of Palin's nomination as vice president did bring forward supposedly the scandalous news. The National Enquirer, one of my favorite things to read at the supermarket, showed precisely this effect with its first issue after the Palin nomination. So this is the September 15th issue. Sarah Palin's dark secrets, exclamation mark. Okay, and then there's 3 bullet points. Affair that nearly ruined her career. How she tried to cover up teen daughter's pregnancy. Family war that exposed her lies. Okay, do you want to hear the details? Oh, well, I can tell that you do. Either that or you're hiding the fact that you've already read it and you bought this issue. So you've just demonstrated my thesis that the public really does that the public really does want to dish the dirt, even though this would have nothing to do with her fitness for office, at least according to one of the films I'm going to talk about, the moral universe of the contender. Okay, so, all right, I'll tell you the details. And this was in the first rush of information. The affair that she allegedly had an affair with her husband's business partner, and when husband Todd found out, he dissolved his business relationship and friendship with the fellow. Of course, there's denials, that it was never consummated. The cover-up of her daughter's pregnancy, in particular that they were juggling dates for announcing the fact of the pregnancy, apparently trying to have the pair married before the public announcement, and then it would have come out about 2 weeks after her nomination at the Republican convention. But of course, it leaked out before that. The next issue of the Enquirer, the next week, okay, kept going. Sarah Palin, what she's hiding. Okay, the affair, her secret confession. Son's drug addiction, needles, pills, and cocaine. Pregnant daughter banished from house. Okay, since we're already dishing the dirt here, I guess I'd better tell you what the details of that were. That daughter Bristol was a dope-smoking, underage drinking party girl. That her son Trigg was an OxyContin addict involved in vandalism and theft in Wasilla. That Palin herself was pregnant when she got married. That she sent daughter Bristol to live with Palin's sister 25 miles away and forbid the girl from seeing Levi Johnson, the beau, and and that the official story at daughter Bristol's high school was that she was out of school with mononucleosis. So, how horrible or dastardly or whatever is all of this? Obviously, the tabloids we know and bloggers who want to do anything they can to attack a political figure will try to make something out of all of this. I think probably for most of the public, the idea that, of course, right, that she banished her daughter. It sounds more like she was trying to, keep the daughter away from this bad boyfriend or something like that, rather than, I won't ever talk to you again or something like that, young lady. But we don't know, okay? We don't have those details. And on the other hand, it now seems, based on last night's news, that all these people that were in the McCain campaign are now blurting out all these things about what was wrong with Sarah Palin, that she didn't know the 3 countries that are in the NAFTA treaty, that she couldn't name. She thought that Africa was a country rather than a continent, and things like this. So I'm sure that probably more of this will drizzle out to us.